we're in a bewildering state of affairs when it comes to the pricing of consoles on the gaming market. Of course, it's worth keeping in mind that usually what's happened is the console prices usually go down when the generation really starts to get going, and then that's when we get slim versions, which are usually cheaper than the base version. But still offering better quality of life, and then having pro versions later on that are slightly more expensive than the base version, but ultimately I think when time goes on the price usually begins to go down. Now, with that being said, however, the subtitle of this article actually made me pause and think for a moment. But basically, Microsoft is raising prices of the Xbox consoles in the US again 5 months after its last increase, and the bit that actually really got me going, a 2TB Xbox Series X costs more than a PS5 Pro. Keeping in mind that, think of like the Series X as like the base model of an Xbox for this generation, because the S is a lower version of the base. Then you've got the PS5 model, which is the base for the generation on the PlayStation side, and then you've got the Pro, which is the better SKU or the better model of the generation. Crazy when you really sort of put it out there like that. So for a 2TB Xbox Series X to cost more than a PS5 Pro, already the Xbox is not worth the money that it was, printed on initially. And as time has gone on, it's become less and less worth it over time. And you might think, Game Pass. But to be completely fair, I am very much old man, sort of shaking my fists at the clouds, thinking how Game Pass just kind of ruins the value of gaming, just because it turns it into mobile, where on mobile, unless your game is free, people are not going to play it. People are not going to pay money to play your game. It's always been a race to the bottom as far as trying to get more people onto your game, because it's all well and good to have as many people as you can play it, but how many of those really do lean in on the sales? Why can we not just rely on the sales of a game to allow that to then be able to develop a sequel or a future game down the line? Hollow Knight was able to do that. Hollow Knight Silksong exists in a significantly larger capacity and is treated as a standalone release because Hollow Knight did so well. I don't see why other games, other franchises, other console makers wouldn't be able to do the same. And again, this might just be old hat thinking getting in the way, but I really do think that more people, I feel like more game companies and more publishers should go back to doing what they used to do back in the late 2010s. I feel like that's still very much the era of gaming that many of us like to kind of still dream in, I guess, to some extent. But with that being said, let's just get back to the main topic at hand, which is that Microsoft is increasing prices of the Xbox series of consoles. So the company announced back in May that it was increasing the prices of its consoles globally, including the increasing the price of the Xbox Series X and S in the US by $100 for the X and $80 for the S. Now it's announced that they're raising the prices even further, but only in the United States due to the macroeconomic environment. According to the newly updated support page, the increases will take effect from October 3rd. Okay, let's have a look-see. So, both the 512GB and 1TB model of the Series S will see a $20 increase on top of the $80 they received in May, while the X and Series X Digital will see their prices raised by a further $50. Now, keeping in mind that the last price increase that happened on the PS5 side was basically $50 across the board with the two SKUs of the console. So it's worth keeping that in mind. And that the last increase of the Xbox Series X, the 2TB version, did go up by over $130, mind you. So, not all increases are deemed equal in that sense. The biggest increase for the Xbox Series X 2TB Galaxy Black Edition, which will get a $70 increase on top of its previous $130. Okay. Okay. So a $50 increase on, no, sorry, $70 increase on top of its $130 increase. Now, see, I was tapping into my memory to remember that $130 increase. And I didn't realize it was actually in this article. I really need to read the stuff that I'm about to talk about before, recording, because I'm basically just like, okay, here's the article, start recording, and then as I'm reading through the article, that's where I'm like explaining, talking about things. That's crazy. It's funny that always keeps happening, but who knows if that's going to change further down the line. But yeah, the console launched at $600 is now costing $800 and is more expensive than a PS5 Pro, which also comes with 2 terabytes of storage. That I did not know. My god. Okay, so PS5 Pro comes with 2 TB storage, and is $50 cheaper than an Xbox Series X, the Galaxy Black Edition. So I guess they're trying to make it seem fancier because of its color. But the thing is that I thought most Xboxes were black in color anyways. For the most part. I mean, the 360 was the generation where they didn't quite have that, but I digress, because the standard 360 was gray in color. But yeah, the full changes are here as follows. So yep. Oh, they actually have the launch prices here on the Video Games Chronicle article here, which I think is brilliant. So currently, so the launch price of the Xbox Series S half a terabyte edition was $300, now $400 currently. The Xbox Series S 1 terabyte edition, launched at $350, is now costing $450, so $100 increase since the launch. Xbox Series X digital, that is $450 is now $600 currently. Xbox Series X, the normal version, $500 is now costing $650, and then of course the Xbox Series X 2 terabyte Galaxy Black Edition, $600 now charging for $800. Microsoft says that the controllers and headsets are going to remain the same, and that the prices in other countries outside the US will remain unchanged, but who knows for how much longer, because they say it's going to remain the same. The problem is, how long is it going to take before it does increase again? It's only a matter of time before it does. Already, the Xbox Series X 2 terabyte Galaxy Black Edition, which isn't even the most powerful console, with the same size of a hard drive of a PS5 Pro, is somehow now the most expensive console on the market. Not to talk about, not to bring in portable PCs and stuff. That's a completely separate argument, because they're in their own tier of pricing, it seems like. But yeah, while they say that so far their pricing is going to remain the same in other situations and circumstances, like I said, it's very, very difficult to trust them in any way, shape, or form that they're not going to increase the price later on down the line. Sony previously increased the price of PS5s in select regions in August 2022 and April 2025, excluding the US both times, eventually leading to a US console price increase last month, which was $50 across the board, like I mentioned earlier. Nintendo also delayed Switch 2 pre-orders in the US due to, the financial situation, tariffs and whatever have you. Finally did release, and it wasn't really releasing in a price that at least I personally thought was going to be worth the money, if I'm being completely honest. But I am interested to hear what you guys have to say about this, because like I said, how is it that an Xbox Series X that has a 2 terabyte hard drive and a PS5 Pro that also has a 2 terabyte hard drive, that somehow the Xbox console is $50 more expensive than the PlayStation console, which is by and large technically the only Pro version of a console of the current generation on the market, with the size of the hard drive being the same across both devices? That doesn't really make much sense, especially since we're talking about Microsoft here of all things. But with all that being said though, let me know what you guys think about all this in the comments below. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe to the channel. I'm aiming for 500 subs by the end of the year. And with all that being said, I do upload every day, so I'll see you guys tomorrow.